Okay, Dangerous is finally here. The double album from Morgan Wallen. We've been waiting for what seems like a year or two now for this thing to drop, and it's finally here. I'm going to go through all 30 songs, just some quick thoughts on every single one of them. I've listened to the album once all the way through, and most of it a second time, a little bit of it a third time, and then, of course, about a third of the album has been out for a while now, so I'm very familiar with about a third of the album, but pretty familiar with it now. I feel like it's gotten into my mind and soul and spirit as much as it could for now. So this is like a first reaction video slash review. My feelings on it could change slightly in the coming week, sure, but I wanted to right away, there's so much excitement. I know I'm very excited about it. I couldn't stay silent anymore. I wanted to let you guys know what I thought about it right away. Okay, so let's quickly run through all 30 of these tracks. I'm going to try to go as fast as I can, okay? Track 1, Sand in My Boots. There's some really good piano and the gruff vocals. They sort of contrast and sound really good together. There's some good imagery. There's a line, she left her flip-flops by my red wings on the beach. I think that for some reason, for me, it just invokes the spirit of summer in my mind. I don't know. I don't know if I've experienced something similar to that. It makes you feel like you have, even if you haven't, I guess. And then there's also, in the chorus, he says, all I brought back was some sand in my boots. So he had this, the summer romance, and nothing really came of it. And, this isn't a whole new idea for a song, but he found a new way to express that feeling, and I think it works really well. Next up is Wasted on You, and honestly, the hip hop drums here are a welcome change from the normal snap tracks you usually hear on songs that sort of sound like this. Otherwise, this is a decent but not totally memorable track. It's a nice blue-eyed soul sort of country thing, and I like it. So next is Somebody's Problem, and it's already sort of a big hit. There's nothing totally new about it sonically, but it has a good core idea behind it, and then, Wallen's infectious vocals just really carry this song like a lot of tracks. Next is More Surprised Than Me, and again, nothing new musically here. The album starts to get a little too familiar at this point, sonically speaking, but the lyrics are interesting, and there's enough specificity to sort of drive it home. Next is 865, probably one of my least favorite songs on the album, if I'm being honest. It's, 865 refers to the Knoxville area code, and he repeats a number in the song, and I'm assuming it's his phone number, or, a number that is supposed to be his phone number. It's funny that in the beginning of the song, the bottle that he's talking about throughout the song is Jack Daniels, and Jack Daniels is not from the same area code, but it is from the same state, and I just feel like if he would have maybe picked a bottle, a type of liquor, or a brand of liquor based out of Knoxville, I'm sure there has to be one. It's Tennessee. I feel like that would have added another dimension. So I feel like you kind of missed an opportunity here, but still a decent song. Although I will say, like I said, it's not my favorite song. One redeeming quality though is the lyricism is decent. There's a line in the song. It's give the bedroom door a little closure, and I think that's kind of funny and it's witty. Anyway, next is Warning. And here you get the first appearance of the snaps, but they eventually are drowned out in the total mix. So, while the snaps, the snaps invoke sort of a, oh shit, here we go. And outside of, in the breakdowns, like I said, in the breakdowns you can hear the snaps, but outside of that, they're drowned out, and it's a decent song. Overall, this mix is much more about those hip hop drums again. This song reminds me a lot of Heartless, but with like way more soul. Again, this is an obvious sort of R&B infused country sound, and that's sort of becoming his signature at this stage of his career, I think. Lyrically, it's not all that, honestly, but I like it. You don't always have to be intricate to be effective. Next is Neon Eyes, and we get some of that country feel back. There's a line, it says, full of small town innocence guarded by a picket fence. And I think that's a really interesting line. How the idea of like the picket fence life really guarding innocence. I think that's a really astute observation. Outlaw, there's some pronounced acoustic guitar in the beginning, which is nice. Ben Burgess, who wrote Whiskey Glasses, has a feature here, and it fits in well. It's a decent song, but maybe a little bit of a tired concept by now. Next is Whiskeyed My Way. Really not finding new territory here, lyrically, but the instrumentation is good. It's mood music, so it's a good listen. Wondering About the Wind. It's starting to feel like a very formulaic album at this point. Strong vocals on every chorus, but the song is redeeming lyrically. It does a good job of painting the picture of her moving on, being so effortless, like the wind. It's a good song. Next is Your Bartender. Nothing feels super special about this song to me. Lyrically, it's not bad, but it's starting to feel manufactured to me at this point. The album started to feel a little bit manufactured. Just kind of formulaic. The album is very cohesive, but it's got such an accessible and mainstream sound that it starts to feel like it has a low ceiling in terms of its impact. Next is Only Thing That's Gone, and here we get a Chris Stapleton feature. Thank you. There's a line, she told me where I could go, just stopped in here before I went. And I think that's kind of witty. You know, he stopped at the bar on his way to hell because she told him to go to hell. And then the chorus, it's pour me one more drink, make it quick and make it strong, 'cause buddy, my last drink ain't the only thing that's gone. I think that's a very witty line for the chorus. And then the strength of these two singing the last couple of choruses together is just fantastic. They work together. Being side by side with Stapleton sort of displays how Wallen actually has one of the better voices in modern country music. Next up is Cover Me Up. It's a very serviceable cover of one of the greatest country songs ever written, in my opinion. And so, it is what it is. We're familiar with it by now. Next up is Seven Summers, and that's a classic already. I like it a lot. I don't know if it's my favorite song on the album, but it's one of my favorite songs of last year, definitely. And then More Than My Hometown closes out the first disc. These songs fit within a theme and a vibe of this project as well. They're also both standout sonically too. Probably not the best writing on the album, but I'm not surprised that they're both hits, and it's a good way to close out the first disc and keep you wanting to listen to more. Now on to disc 2. It opens with Still Going Down. This song is out there in the world right now. It's got a line in the song. It says, for some folks, a back road gets old, but for me, it just can't. And I think that really exemplifies why what we call bro country is so damn popular. If you live that lifestyle, then you love that lifestyle, and you're going to love the music that discusses it and makes you feel that vibe. Some of the music is really bad. Morgan Wallen's music is not really bad. It's really good, and he does some bro country stuff. And I think that line I think it's a good line for a Morgan Wallen song. Next is Rednecks, Red Letters, and Red Dirt. There's some really good wordplay here, some solid imagery. It has a more country-centric sound. It doesn't just depend on the vocals for that, like a lot of Morgan Wallen songs do. Still working, though, within the formula of the album, which sounds like a knock, but the song's so good, you can't really knock it, you know what I mean? Next is Dangerous, the title track. This has a different kind of vocal delivery. It's a sped up version, really, of what he normally does. It's sort of half fresh sounding, but also half irritating, and I'm not totally sure they didn't just speed it up after the fact. I don't know. I'm gonna have to listen to the song a lot more. This is one of those songs that I only listened to once through because I wasn't really feeling it. Something about the way it sounded sped up rather than just delivered quickly. So we'll see. Next is Beer Don't. And admiration of beer in country music is nothing new, but imagery and wordplay make this song stand out more than a lot of its predecessors. He has a very fun vocal delivery in this song, and it sort of keeps up the theme of this second disc, at this point anyway, of being a little bit more traditionally country sounding. Next is Blame It On Me. The guitars are a little bit cheesy on this one, very poppy, but they're fun, and that's sort of fitting for the mood of this song. And I like how he slides some really sweet things in with all of the like country boy aesthetic that rubbed off on her through their relationship. He says things like, start to talk with a southern drawl and feeling all kinds of pretty. And there's a couple other examples of that. It shows that like all of this stuff isn't rubbing out. All of this stuff is not rubbing off on her because of just being country is better than everyone else, but rather it's rubbing off on her because he's treating her better than everybody else. And I sort of like that message more than the just, the country boy lifestyle is superior type of thing you get in a lot of modern country music. So that's good. Next is Something Country, and honestly, this is a banger. Again, more of a traditional modern country sound. And the chorus has that sort of Grundy County auction, John Michael Montgomery quick delivery thing going on for it, like on the song Sold, albeit much slower than that. But I really think that could make this a deep cut classic, if not a really successful single at some point. Next up is This Bar, and I think we're all familiar with this song, and that's when you get into the next song, Country Ass Shit. The instrumental to this is kind of fire, honestly. Losing My Dodge Ram Mind is just a really funny and witty line. This song is that kid that says, I just want to do hood rat stuff with my friends, It's that, it's that personified into a song. It's definitely a companion piece to Unapologetically Country as Hell from last year by Hardy. Very similar vibes and just as catchy and awesome. I really like this song. Next is What You Think of Country Now, and this is a swagger song for a country boy. This is just How You Like Me Now style stuff. They got to do some Fishing in the Dark, which is not the only Nitty Gritty Dirt Band reference on this album, which I like that. And again, this disc at this point, disc 2, is planted its flag for what it stands for, and it's fun. However, on the next song, Me on Whiskey, we have more of a sonic recall to disc 1. It's decent, but I'm not sure I'll keep coming back to this one. I don't have a lot to say. It's a sort of formulaic thing. Next, we have Need a Boat, and there is a strong 90s country vibe on this. I love that. Maybe not the greatest song, but such a good vibe that it's going to be hard not to go back to it a lot. And then on Silverado for Sale, this is another like Morgan Wallen, Hardy style song where they take something that's kind of been done often, but they just find a new way to do it and they push it even farther, and they make the best version of something that's been done many times before. Next up is Heartless. We all know this. This was sort of the song that made me realize the promise of Morgan Wallen, where he had so much of a mass pop appeal, even though he had that just very country vocal. And this song was remixed to have more of a country rock vibe from the Diplo version, so I like it. Next song is Livin' the Dream. Here we hear some really sincere lyrics. It's really nice to see some introspection. And this is just such a great pop song for this era. The sound of popular music right now is really injected into this song. However, it doesn't even really sound like it belongs on this disc or even on this album, but it's here and I'm really happy because I really like the song. And that brings us to number 30. Wow. Number 30 is Quittin' Time, and it immediately hits you with this gorgeous acoustic guitar. And you're like, okay, let's get real for a minute. And I'd say it delivers on that. You need to just listen to this song. It's a good album closer. I still want to sit with it a little longer. This is the one song that I also listened to only one time. I just kept getting distracted every time I tried to listen to it again. But I wanted to cut this video. But it felt really strong. It felt really strong. With his voice and inflection, Morgan Wallen obviously works really well on anything remotely folksy or country or rock influenced. But the real accomplishment of Morgan Wallen is taking that very country boy, good old boy southern vocal and putting it on really infectious pop songs. And he does that several times on this album. And there's like 8 or 9 very familiar songs on this album that have been out and floating around for a long time, which means there's still 22 brand new songs on this album roughly. And you gotta wonder, like, is that too much? And I just don't think it is. I mean, there are times where I thought that, and I'm like, uh-oh, this is starting to sound a little formulaic. This is starting to go south a little bit. Mainly from like the middle of disc 1 until sort of the beginning stages of disc 2. But then you're sort of saved by some of those big singles in there at the end of disc 1 that sort of keep you listening and then sort of shift the perspective of the album so that you're understanding, you go back to disc 1, it's like, oh, that song is actually better than I thought. And then it starts to grow on you because there's just so much to take in that it's hard to remember how good the last disc was when you're listening to disc 2 or when you're listening to disc 1, remembering, oh, I can't wait for disc 2, But yeah, that second disc rolls in after the first disc at times can feel like they're working, he's working with a formula here. That second disc rolls in and you're just carried up in it and swallowed into it at how infectious some of these songs are and how good his voice is and how much fun you're having. And it's like accessing parts of your mind and body that popular music are supposed to do. It's not that this album does new things. It's very much like A Rock by Hardy from last year in that, it takes what's already been done and does a very good version of it, maybe a better version of it. And, this is a super ambitious project. And because of his talent for writing and singing and surrounding himself with talent in the studio, I think he really pulls it off. I think he really sets the bar very high for the top shelf Nashville talent going forward. I mean, there's 30 songs on this album and there is not a bad one. There aren't any duds. And I'm not sure that this could have been one disc without it being still like a 25 track album. I mean, at least, I don't know that there are 5 songs that I would say, yeah, take it off. Maybe at most 4 or 5 songs that I would say, yeah, if that weren't there, that'd be okay. Like, I don't know. This could have been 2 albums separate, put out separately, but I kind of like that he was ambitious enough to combine them, put out a double album, and pull it off so well. So, I still have to sit with this album a little bit more, but my initial reaction is that this is going to stand as a symbol of like what popular mainstream country music sounded like and what it felt like in the early 2020s. And so with that, I'm going to give this album a solid 9 out of 10, which is saying something. I was while listening to this and sort of putting together this video, I noticed that I gave If I Know Me a 5.3 out of 10. So I think he really established himself, especially as a writer. I mean, and so that's really an accomplishment because it's a well-written album. And so I think Morgan Wallen has cemented himself as a country music star and has set himself up for some high expectations. Okay? All right, thanks. We'll see y'all later.